Last video I glazed Nintendo a lot for the reveal of the Switch 2, but now as we await the Direct, I feel like Nintendo has to address a couple of things. The Switch 1 was my favorite console of all time, but I can agree that it's very heavily flawed. I have a lot of issues with it, but for this video, I'm only going to go over 5 of them. I'm fully expecting that these issues are going to be resolved for the Switch 2, and if they aren't, I'm just going to join the hate train myself. These are going to be ordered in terms of importance, so starting off with number 5.
I made a tweet fairly recently talking about how this specific issue was one of Nintendo's biggest fumbles on the Switch, and that issue was the lack of themes. This is number 5 because it's not too important, but it's a big question mark. The last handheld before this had thousands of themes, while this one only had 2 since the release. We will probably never get an answer, but why couldn't they just release more?
I really dislike how empty this list is, and I started to think to myself, why does this bother me so much? And then I realized the Switch has no customization.
We went from having a ton of options, like being able to drag your games where you want them to be, not just by last played, the ability to change the row of games to a grid without having to press it every time, and like I said already, having numerous themes to really personalize your console.
While I did enjoy the simplicity of the Switch, after a couple years it just kind of became boring. From here on out though, these are probably the most popular complaints about the original Switch. Continuing on with number 4. You know what I want to do right now? I'm going to check the eShop real quick because I haven't done that in a while.
6.5 hours later.
Finally. Bro! Yeah, the eShop is a pretty huge problem. It's probably the worst digital store I've ever been on, and it's just incredibly lazy. It's so slow, there's weird puzzle hentai games everywhere. It's honestly an embarrassment.
What's strange is that Nintendo has always had their digital stores as applications, and they definitely didn't feel like they're on a web browser, but for this one, it's like they didn't care. I could talk about how they handled Virtual Console and other eShop exclusives from the past, but they have their own system right now, which is okay, I guess. I just really want them to completely redo the eShop.
In case you didn't know, the eShop is actually running on the hidden browser on the Switch, which is why it's so slow. I feel like that in itself is ridiculous. Up next, we got number 3. I'm gonna get straight to the point with this next one. There cannot be 32 gigabytes in the internal storage. In 2017, having 32 gigabytes was insane. And now in 2025, I think it's crazy to think below 128. My little brother didn't have an SD card, had 3 games on his Switch. One was Fortnite, the other was Mario Kart 8, and the third one was half of Mario Odyssey. If Nintendo's really planning to go to the $450 range, which some recent leaks have been suggesting, I better not see a mediocre 64 gigabytes. Realistically, I see Nintendo going with a weird number, like 96 maybe, but let me know what you guys think in the comments. For this next one, everyone who has played on the Switch has dealt with this. This is number 2.
Whole beautiful looking field area, it's locked to 30 FPS, but oh man does it feel horrible at 30. Just get me back to 60.
At this point, I wandered back out into the field, turned around, ran back into town, and the results are just as you see. The performance dropped again. So what's happening here? Our best guess is a streaming or memory related issue.
The frame rate is just in the mud.
This needs to end. The clips I just showed you were from Nintendo developed games. All of them are phenomenal, but this shouldn't happen, especially if it's made for the system.
Why is it that whenever I want to play my favorite games on the Switch, I'm met with a mediocre experience and performance? Let me give the devs the benefit of the doubt. In their head, this was going to be another failed console by Nintendo, so why should they even try? Most just threw together a port just to get sales, and it actually worked. I hope more devs take this next console seriously, because I would really like to play some great third-party games on the go.
Generally though, if this thing is as strong as the PS4 Pro, there's no excuse. And now we're finally at number 1. Be honest with me, when you clicked on this video, were you able to guess this number 1? It's like the second most obvious number 1 of all time. It's drifting.
Nintendo has to make sure this doesn't happen again. One of the most infamous problems in gaming controller history, and it was never fully fixed. President Furukawa apologized for how bad things got, and Nintendo did good by making the program free to get them fixed, but this is still something that shouldn't have ever left the production line.
Throughout the Switch's lifespan, I bought 4 pairs of Joy-Cons, including the ones on my day 1 Switch and my OLED. 2 of them had drifting issues, including my day 1 Joy-Cons.
It's a bit funny that in the trailer there's 2 instances that can be used as joking about Joy-Cons drifting, but this was a serious issue. No one wanted to go out and buy $80 controllers just for them to break in a couple of months. This is the cheapest console on the market. A lot of people I know can't afford to get new controllers and then have to rely on cheap third-party controllers that break in no time. It ruins the gaming experience that Nintendo proudly says,
"The game is fun. The game is a battle. If it's not fun, why bother?"
But that's about it. I'm not really the kind of person that hates often. I just really needed to get that out there. Subscribe if you haven't, by the way, and let me know in the comments if I missed any of Nintendo's fumbles. I really love the discussions you guys have had recently. And to those who didn't watch the last video, once again, I would like to welcome you into the Switch 2 era. Bye!